End of the year, I usually do like a summary post and always reflect back on everything that happened throughout the year and like what my goals were, what I accomplished, what I wanted to do, and what I didn't. So I always go through all that. But that started with this. So that started with me hitting rock bottom originally, which was 2003, 2004, whatever year my divorce was finalized. So I got married, and we were married for less. Well, we were together for less than a year, married for less than a year before she said she wanted a divorce. And there was a lot of red flags I ignored. I wasn't ready to be married. Like it was just bad all the way around. And there were some specific things, and maybe I can get into those later, but specific things that like I couldn't even track. I didn't know what was going on. Things she had said, basically like there's no passion in this relationship. And I was like, oh well, do you want me to yell at you and call you an idiot and stuff like as an insult? And she's like, well, at least I know you care. And I remember thinking how crazy that was, not realizing later how important like emotion and passion is in relationships, especially when you think about triangular theory of love, passion, intimacy, and commitment. So didn't know anything, was totally just doomed from the start. And I think rebounds, like it was a rebound for her. I think it was kind of for me. But what I was just talking about with another student is when you're lonely, you're depressed, when you don't have anyone, you're so desperate for affection and for attention and for love that you'll put the blinders on and you'll jump into these bad relationships. So wish her all the best. There's no bad blood or anything, but she said she wanted a divorce. We started the paperwork on it. Brutal. I remember going to the lawyer and like she didn't. We had to write like a check. This is years ago, so like she didn't have her checkbook with her. I always had a check like in my glove box or in my wallet. I think I had one both, but I had to like write the check to the lawyer who was a buddy of mine and like doing us a favor. And like I didn't even want to write the check because I wasn't the one like initiating the divorce. And so because I paid like on paper, I was the one like wanting it. So there's all these things like that that just sucked because like when I made a vow, when I gave my word, I when I do that, I mean it. So especially when I got married, like there was people at my wedding that I invited to, and then later we were busy. We moved to a different city, but people I was still on good terms with and friends with and stuff. But then after I got divorced, there was like some of them I just like never talked to again because I was so full of shame. I was so ashamed and full of shame and just horrible that like I didn't even want to see them because they came to my wedding, got me a gift and all this stuff. I was like, do I give wedding gifts back? I was like, man, it just sucked. So I remember she started dating someone. It's always what happens too when you're girls. There's guys just circling, friend zone orbiters, vultures. Like they're all just waiting for their chance. So obviously, like, and this is what every guy has to remember is like even before your guys' relationship's over, she could already have someone waiting, or like boom, it just starts like the day after, the night of you guys end. So she was dating someone else right away, and that sucked, obviously. And I wanted to date someone. I wanted to like get back into it and go out and have sex and stuff, but I didn't have the abilities to. Like I bragged that I had deleted all those like memory files from my brain, like dating and how to flirt. Oh, I don't know. Thank God I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. But a year later, I have to. We were together for a bit and then um, married. So, anyways, a couple years, but you get my point. So I remember just trying to get girls, and then I was like, oh, okay, I have such bad crippling social anxiety. Well, let me try online. And this is like when online was first happening just before us. Like, cause I had met a couple girls online and it had a little bit of success. So I was like, well, let me try that again. So I think I got on OK Cupid, and this is when you would answer like all these questions and this whole big thing because it was like more than just a dating site. And I met a girl on it, and she was attractive, and she sent me a couple cute pictures. And then I saw later like she had like a rotten tooth in front, but I was like, okay, maybe that's I can't be beggars can't be choosers, and I guess now I'm divorced. I'm just gonna have to lower my standards. And then she like worked at Walgreens part time, lived at home. Anyways, all this crazy drama stuff. But I was like, okay, well, I can work with that. I can figure it out. And then in my mind, I was like, oh, I'll have this magical date. I'll sweep her off her feet. Some chick who doesn't even deserve it, and I shouldn't be putting on a pedestal. And oh, it's New Year's Eve. So New Year's Eve's coming up into the year. That's why I'm telling you the story. I was like, oh, New Year's Eve, I got this. We sold our house, made a lot of money on it, but I was in my apartment in Phoenix on South Mountain, for anyone who knows that. And you could see like downtown Phoenix, you could see ASU, you could see Chandler. Like I could see, I knew would be able to see multiple fireworks shows like at night. So I had this great plan of having the girl come over. I'll cook dinner. We can watch the fireworks show. Maybe later, maybe if I'm lucky, we'll have some fireworks of our own. And then I got stood up and just stood up. Nothing, no reach out, no. I'm texting, hey, are you okay? Like that's such an AFC logic move. Is everything okay? I haven't heard from you. I just want to make sure you're all right. So totally did all that, got stood up. And I remember sitting on the balcony and the fireworks shows were going off. And I had bottles of Maker's Mark whiskey, which isn't my favorite, so don't go out and buy me any. But lots of guys, when they see me posting about that for years, because I still had the same bottle for years, I would pour one glass every New Year's. On the balcony, having a glass of whiskey, and fireworks shows going off. I'm going back to it right now. And I'm standing on the balcony, and there's just multiple fireworks shows going off. And I'm just sitting there going, man, like, I'm such a loser. Like, no one wants to be with me. I couldn't even make a marriage work. Was this girl that technically is like below my standards. It was cute, but rotten tooth, vulgar, all that stuff. I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't deal with this anymore. I got really depressed and really sad. And you start thinking bad thoughts. And even if you just think about things like, oh, well, I could maybe, like, my life's worthless. So I want to, like, I'm not saying like necessarily suicide or anything, but maybe I could sacrifice it for someone else who has like a better life kind of thing. Because they deserve to live. And like, what do I, well, not deserve, like they have something to live for. That's a better way of saying it. And like, what do I have to live for? So it's kind of like that. I started having some deeper thoughts. But I knew, because of tactical training, because of martial arts, I knew this wasn't going to be something that could just change overnight. So I go, okay, well, how did I learn those other things? Well, you got to practice. I went to classes. I learned from experts, and I was like, okay, books, videos. I was like, I gotta start learning this stuff. And I was like, I'm going to give myself a year, because you really need time to commit to something new. I go, I'm going to give myself like a year to try to learn this stuff and figure it out. And then in a year, if I haven't, then I can maybe make some choices, which really it was kind of thinking about like maybe like going and join the military or something, and or just going and doing like real dangerous stuff, because I'm like, oh, why not? Like, again, there's nothing here for me. So it was going down that path of thought. But I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself a year. So New Year's Eve, and that's why New Year's Eve is always a big deal to me. I'm going to give myself a year for it. So that's what started the journey, which I'll get into in the next video. But rock bottom, divorced, house, sold it, and was supposed to be happily ever after. She was pregnant, had a miscarriage. I found out shortly after. Well, I don't want to put too much stuff, but she was very depressed after, and then things went bad for her, and I found that out later, and that just piled it up. And my dream of becoming a police officer, that was always my dream, is I want to be like a SWAT guy, which I had actually helped teach some tactical classes like out in California. And we did one for a local down south by the kind of close to the border, a major department. We did a class. I helped out with that. And the SWAT commander thought like I was such a dialed in, cool dude, I guess, that later they were trying to figure out who I was with, what I was doing. My ex-wife was actually there helping out in the class. She was actually filming it with a night vision camcorder. And she was wearing an orange safety vest. And we were doing like hostage rescue stuff, low light stuff. And she was shot multiple times by the paintball guns. And so she's in an orange safety vest, camcorder, night vision camcorder, face mask on. The instructor's like, hey guys, don't shoot the girl who's filming. She's filming it. So later you can watch the videos and break things down. And she was shot multiple times. So that's kind of what started me thinking, hey, maybe the SWAT team coming and rescuing us isn't like the best plan. Maybe I should just take care of myself. Anyways, the SWAT commander later found out I was like a civilian, and because everyone else was military and law enforcement stuff. And they're like, he's like, you're a civilian? And I go, yeah. He's like, oh, what do you want to do? I was like, oh, I want to become like a SWAT guy. And he's like, get on the department. I'll help you get hired. And then after a year, when you're off probation, I'll help you. I guarantee you a spot on our SWAT team. I'll help you get hired. If you get on, I guarantee you a spot. And that was like my dream. And so I remember talking to my ex-wife on the drive home. I was like, hey, he invited me for this. And she's like, I don't want to move that far away from my family. So said no to that. I was like, oh, I'll figure out something else. That I'm living out here in Arizona. I'm doing tactical training. Then I get hearing damage. And then the department I was talking to, and the other one, there's like, oh yeah, you can't pass the physical. So my dream career that I've been doing all this training for was over. And so job, family, I wasn't close to. Like that was real rough growing up. The miscarriage, had a house, sold that. So now it was hard to find a place to live because all the prices of everything was going up. So I'm like renting an apartment, and then she's already off with someone else. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff, and then being stood up on New Year's. So all that together, rock bottom, dark thoughts, and yeah, that was a low point. So that's part one. I tell people a lot of the stuff, and I'm not getting into all the details, but like childhood was pretty rough. We were pretty poor at a time and things. And so a lot of the stories with students, when they start opening up to me and I share back, there's stuff I don't want to put on the internet, but there's stuff that we'll compare. I call it comparing like what was me contest. And like, so far I've never been one upped in a what was me contest with a student when we start saying all the bad stuff we went through. So I don't want to get too much into it because part two of this is going to be how I rose from the ashes like a phoenix and how I turned all that negative stuff into good stuff. And the roadmap that I came up with, and then the couple things I wish I would have done differently at the beginning. And that's going to be the video for the beginning of the year, how I started off my whole PUA journey. And it wasn't a PUA journey because it took me a couple months to even find out about PUA stuff. So this was just me starting off my self-improvement journey and my dating life improvement journey and trying to master, really what it was trying to master this area of my life. Because I'd done some cool stuff, but I was like, I can't figure this out. So I heard a good quote years ago and it really resonated with me. I read it originally and then later I heard it. Tony Robbins, which is true change only comes from inspiration or desperation. So hitting rock bottom, I'm desperate. Now, the cool part is a couple months later, I saw some of the PUA stuff in action and then I became inspired. So now I was coming at it from both sides. I was desperate and inspired. And that's why I went so hard, so fast, and was so committed to this stuff. But there you go. That's my rock bottom. And it sucked. I was living alone. I remember watching Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and had a cool place, this cool pimp pad, not being used at all. Living over by ASU, one of the colleges with the most attractive women ever. Wouldn't talk to anyone. Was working from home before. I was doing some tactical training. That job then got shelved because the guy who was doing it went to go sold the company and started working for a government agency. So then my career was over, and then relationships. So yeah, sucked. So end of the year, that's where I was. And what I said at the beginning about always thinking about like where you're at, using the years as a reference point is real simple because like you're living the life you earned. So if you didn't make cool stuff happen this year, it's your fault. And in that year, when I got stood up, like that was all my fault. Putting all my eggs in one basket, like so many cliche rules I broke. So now it just becomes a story. Like my lowest point becomes a story to help other people and inspire people. And how cool is that? That like I get to turn negatives like that into positives. And like I said, that's what I was so desperate. That's what pushed me in the direction I needed to go. If I wasn't that desperate, if I wasn't that low, if I hadn't been stood up, none of this stuff would have happened. If that girl would have shown up, I probably would have dated her and told her I loved her and shit. So thank God everything happened the way it did. So on that, this is gonna be the last live stream for the end of the year. I got stuff going on, Christmas, New Year's, all that stuff. I think I'm gonna try to do it maybe on the 5th. I'll come back and do it the next one, which is again another Friday, but I'll see. I'll do an alert for that one. And yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for anyone who came and watched this stuff. If anyone wants some advice or help, reach out. Otherwise, I'll be on Discord. I hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if you don't, there's next year. And I am living proof of what's possible of going from my lowest low to the next one to teaching guys how to improve their dating lives within 1 year. Later, guys.